Loneliness is never a fun thing to have to deal with, but unfortunately, many gifted children are forced to deal with it from an early age. In this video, I want to share what caused my loneliness in my childhood, so I'm gonna get to it. When I was a child, I faced the cruel irony of being a gifted extrovert who loved social interaction, but I lacked the skills needed to forge healthy connections. I desperately tried to find a place where I could fit in, but kept failing at it. So when I started high school, I'd stopped trying. Why was I lonely? Well, firstly, I felt twice as old as my peers, and that made me feel lonely. I felt my classmates were childish and didn't have the same wisdom and knowledge I did. When I was 11, they were still watching cartoons while I was watching the news for adults. Secondly, I was highly curious. In fact, I was so curious that both my peers and the adults around me considered me nosy, and I drained the adults around me of energy when I kept asking questions about a topic which intrigued me. I remember my grandma wasn't always able to answer my queries. I soon learned it was rude to ask too many questions and started keeping them to myself. This added to my feeling of loneliness, as I had no one to turn to when I needed questions to get answered. Well, that's not entirely true. My dad did go to great lengths to answer my questions, and for that, I'm thankful. But then again, he wasn't around that often, which made it more difficult for me to find answers when I was between 3 and 6. In high school, I attended a dance school, and although I shared the passion for dancing with my classmates, I felt I was the only one who was interested in learning about dance history and about what was going on in the professional dance world, etc. on my own before school brought it up. In junior high and in high school too, I watched CNN in the morning, read the newspaper 1 hour a day, loved the foreign news section, and loved watching CBS 60 Minutes. And I felt none of my peers in Sweden did any of that. Thirdly, I was highly sensitive. I couldn't stand loud sounds or certain colors. For example, a certain shade of gray made me queasy. I was jumpy and had a low pain tolerance. When kids found out how sensitive I was, I became the prime target of bullies. For instance, when it was winter and I was about 3 and attended daycare, I didn't like it when snow fell on me. When snowflakes fell on me, it made me feel dirty, so I kept flicking them from my shoulders and didn't want to play in the snow. This made the other kids jeer at me, and I ended up standing in a corner as I wasn't allowed to go inside. Trust me, this added to my feeling of loneliness. Fourthly, the fact that I was highly emotional didn't help either, as my classmates couldn't stand my strong emotional reactions. When I was 8 and still wailed in a situation in which I was feeling doleful, or literally jumped for joy because I was feeling exhilarated, I didn't look cool in my classmates' eyes. This added to me feeling inhibited. I couldn't express my true feelings, and this added to my feeling of loneliness. Finally, performing well at school turned my issues of loneliness worse. When I excelled at school, my classmates called me out for being a nerd, which was true, but it didn't help me create friendships. And because I knew the answers to most questions, I was called a know-it-all. This eventually helped turn me into an underachiever. So, in short, in my childhood, I was too wise, too curious, too sensitive, too emotional, and too attentive in school to connect with my peers. And that, alas, gave me a childhood filled with loneliness. If you found this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up and leave a comment in the comment section below. Subscribe to my channel and watch this series from the start. Next Friday, I'll be back with more Swedish pronunciation training in Swedish. Till then, I only want to say 3 things. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and bye for now.